It's 11:47 p.m. The basement is filling with water. 4 people are standing in it holding towels that aren't doing anything, and one person, the same one this always happens to, walks past everyone, finds the shutoff valve in the dark, and the gushing just stops. Same emergency, same room, completely different brains. And what's happening inside that calm person's head isn't intelligence, isn't experience, and isn't confidence. It's something quieter, and once you see it, you're going to start spotting it everywhere. Okay, so in 1977, a Stanford psychologist named Albert Bandura kept noticing something strange in his research. He'd give 2 people the exact same problem, same tools, same training, same intelligence, and one of them would calmly start working on it while the other would freeze, panic, or hand it off to whoever looked like they knew what they were doing. The difference wasn't ability, it was a single sentence running quietly in the back of their mind. He called it self-efficacy. It's the whisper that says, "I've handled hard things before. This is probably handleable too." And honestly, here's what's wild about his research. In study after study, across classrooms, hospitals, prisons, even sports teams, that one quiet sentence predicted everything. How long someone would stay with a problem, how hard they'd push when it got ugly, whether they'd come back after failing badly. People with that sentence outperformed people without it, even when they were less skilled. The belief itself moved things. But the part Bandura discovered next is the part almost nobody talks about. That sentence doesn't come from compliments. It doesn't come from your parents telling you you're smart. It comes from one specific kind of moment, and most people don't even notice it when it happens. Picture this. You're 7 years old. The lamp in your room flickers off. You stare at it. You wiggle the cord. The light comes back on. That's the whole moment. It looks like nothing, but something just got recorded inside your brain that will follow you for the rest of your life. Bandura called these mastery experiences. And in decades of research, they came out as the single most powerful builder of confidence a human being has access to. Not pep talks, not affirmations, not your dad telling you you can do anything. The thing that actually rewires you is doing the small thing yourself, with your own hands, and watching the world bend a little because of it. The kid who quietly stacks these moments, fixed the bike chain, unjammed the printer, called the dentist herself when mom was at work, made grilled cheese for her little brother, grows up with a nervous system that treats broken things differently. When the pipe bursts at 11:47 p.m., her body doesn't shut down. It goes into mild curiosity. Oh, a puzzle. I've solved puzzles before. But here's the part that should make you a little uncomfortable, and I mean that gently. Some kids never get those small wins, and they spend the rest of their lives standing in flooded basements wondering what's wrong with them. There's a reason for that, and there's a name for it. A few years before Bandura's work, another psychologist named Julian Rotter was circling the same mystery from a different angle. He wanted to know why 2 people facing the same setback could respond so differently. One would shrug, regroup, try again. The other would collapse. Same job loss, same breakup, same diagnosis, completely different reaction. What he found was that everyone walks around silently standing on a line. Picture a long line drawn across the floor of a room. On one end stand the people who feel life mostly happens to them. The boss is moody, traffic's terrible, the universe is rigged. On the other end stand the people who feel their actions actually move things. Same boss, same traffic, same universe. But their first instinct when something goes wrong is, okay, what can I do about this? He called it locus of control. And honestly, when researchers tracked people on both ends of that line over years, the findings were almost unfair. The people on the internal end had lower rates of depression, recovered from setbacks faster, made more money over their lifetimes, and were physically healthier. Across cultures, across ages, across every income level you can imagine,
The simple feeling that what you do matters turns out to be one of the most protective things a human mind can carry. But standing on the right end of that line isn't the same as being unbothered. And this is where almost everyone gets fixers wrong. Watch the fixer in your life during a real crisis and you'd swear they were calm. They're not. Inside their head is the same noise yours has, the same uncertainty, the same spike in heart rate. What's different is what their brain does with it. Stay with me on this one, because it's subtle. In 1949, a psychologist at UC Berkeley named Else Frankel Brunswick gave this skill a name: tolerance for ambiguity. It's the ability to sit inside a situation where you don't yet know the answer, without your whole body sliding into panic. People who struggle with ambiguity need the storm to end right now. They need someone to promise them it's going to be okay before they can think clearly. And when nobody can give them that promise, the anxiety floods in, the brain locks up, and they hand the problem to whoever in the room looks like they have it together. And actually, let me ask you something. Think about who you became during the last family argument, the last work crisis, the phone call where someone you loved told you bad news. Were you the one staying inside the question, or were you scanning the room for who was going to handle it? The fixer learned somewhere along the way to be okay in the not knowing, to stay inside the puzzle while it's still a puzzle. That's not a personality trait, it's a learned tolerance, which means, and hold on to this one, it can be built. But before we get there, I have to be honest about something, because skipping past this part would be doing you a disservice. Not every person who fixes everything is doing it from strength. Some of them learned way too young that competence was how they earned their place at the table, that being helpless wasn't safe, that love came stapled to a solution. So somewhere around age 7 or 8, their nervous system made a quiet decision: I will never not know what to do again. And that decision wears the costume of a superpower for the rest of their lives. The tell is small, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. Ask them to let someone else handle the broken thing and watch what happens. They can't sit still. They hover. They critique. They offer suggestions nobody asked for, because the unsolved problem in the room is starting to feel like an unsolved problem inside their chest. That's not strength. That's a survival response in a really convincing outfit. They're not fixing because broken things fascinate them. They're fixing because broken things scare them. And then there's the other kind. And honestly, this is the kind that changes how you see fixing entirely. Some people fix things because the gap between not working and working is genuinely one of their favorite places in the world. They take apart things they already fixed just to see how they work. They explain what went wrong in a level of detail nobody asked for, glowing, like they just stumbled into a beautiful secret. They didn't fall in love with the outcome, they fell in love with the figuring out. And in 1981, the universe accidentally ran the perfect experiment on these people. A psychologist at the University of Chicago named Suzanne Kobasa was studying executives at Illinois Bell, the phone company, right as it was being torn apart by federal deregulation. Hundreds of people she was tracking lost their jobs, got demoted, or had their careers upended overnight. About a third of them got sick, heart attacks, depression, divorces, burnout they never recovered from. But 2/3 thrived. Same crisis, same chaos, and Kobasa wanted to know why. What she found was that the survivors shared 3 quiet traits. They saw problems as challenges instead of threats. They stayed engaged with their lives instead of pulling away, and they believed their actions still mattered, even when everything was on fire. She called it psychological hardiness, and the fixers in your life who fell in love with the figuring out are quietly walking around with all 3 of those traits, usually without ever knowing it. Okay, so if you've been sitting here this whole video realizing this isn't you, that you're the one who freezes, who hands it off, who waits to be saved, I want to say something specifically to you, and I want you to actually hear this. This isn't a personality. It's not a fixed trait. It's not something you were either born with or doomed without. Bandura's entire life's work hinged on one idea, that the quiet sentence in your head can be rewritten, brick by tiny brick, through small wins almost too small to count. Tighten the loose screw yourself instead of waiting for someone. Make the awkward call you've been putting off for 2 weeks. Try the thing once badly before outsourcing it. Each one is a recording your brain makes, a new version of an old sentence. I can reach into the world and change it. Stack enough of those, and one day, without realizing exactly when it happened, you'll be the one walking past everyone in the flooded basement, and the gushing will just stop. If this gave you a new way to see yourself or someone in your life, a quiet subscribe genuinely helps these videos find the people who need them. Check out the left video about ADHD or right one, The Ignored Child. Goodbye.